Hello, welcome to the Cloud Threats and Security and Vulnerability Summit 2025. I'm Bruno Huttner and I will be presenting about quantum threat, or more precisely, the impact of the quantum computer on cybersecurity. So my name is Bruno and I am the co-chair of the Quantum Safe Security Working Group of the CSA. I'm also Director of Strategic Initiative at ID Quantique in Switzerland. The agenda for the talk will be about the quantum threat in 4 questions. Many of you have probably already heard about the quantum threat, so I decided I will try and do it a little bit differently and add these 4 questions. The first question is what? About what is a quantum computer. Second question is why? Why is it a threat? Third question is when? When will the quantum threat arrive or the quantum computer arrive? And the fourth question is how? For how can we protect the cloud from the quantum threat? I will then end the talk with some action points and a conclusion. So, first start with what is a quantum computer. In order to understand what is a quantum computer, you need to start from the basics of classical computer. A classical computer works with bits, zeros and ones. You see here, I put a marble in a well, and the bit is either a 0 here or a 1 going the other way. Sometimes I show it as an egg box. If I put the marble here, it's a 0. If I put the marble there, it's a 1. Imagine a very, very long egg box with many, many eggs, only one at a time in each row. This is like a Turing machine. It means that I put my eggs, I put my bits in my egg box, and then I can move them one at a time, one way or another. A Turing machine is exactly that, moving bits from 0 to 1, and then moving the machine one step further or one step back. This is really all there is with a classical computer. All classical computers are equivalent to this Turing machine. When you go to a quantum computer, the basic block is totally different. It's a qubit. A qubit is not a 0 or a 1 anymore, or it could be a 0 or a 1, but it can also be a superposition. It's called a coherent superposition of different states. So my qubit here can be in a coherent superposition of 0 and 1. I still have only one marble, but somehow it is delocalized between these two holes and can be here and there at the same time. And what is truly interesting is that you can build many different states. Here I put, for example, 2 of them, from the same qubits. By adding this coherent superposition, you change completely the paradigm of computation, and you got something totally different. If you want to understand quantum, that's another way to look at things. My skier here is going through both sides of the tree at the same time. Of course, we cannot understand that classically, but that's exactly what's happening with quantum. A coherent superposition of a qubit. When a qubit is in a coherent superposition, somehow it can be in 2 states at the same time. If we now want to understand the quantum computer, we start with a classical computer. This is just an analogy. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I hope it will give you an idea of how all this works. So, classically, you prepare your computer in a given state, and then when you make a computation, your state evolves within this maze, one step at a time. You see it can go one way or another depending on the computation you're going. And at the end, you will arrive to an output, but of course, you don't know in advance which output will you be. When you run the computation, you study one path at a time. And it might be the wrong one, and therefore if you want to find the right one, this one here, you have to start again and do another computation, and maybe another one, and you can go on like that before you reach the right level. With quantum, it's very different. Remember, my qubits now can be in coherent superposition. So instead of choosing the path, somehow I choose all of them together. Each time I have a choice here, my qubits will go to both of them at the same time. Somehow, by using a quantum computer, I can explore all of the maze in one step. So what I do is I start my computation, run it and going through all the places in the maze at the same time and end up in one possible position. Now, there is an extra thing you need to understand is that in order to get to the right output, you have what is called interference. It means that the path you see here, all the paths will interfere, and you can select the interference to enhance the results with respect to the other. So the quantum computer will actually arrive to this point much more often than to the others if you choose the path in the right way. And that's really the way the quantum computer will work, by this coherent superposition, interference, and measurement. I hope this gives you an idea of how a quantum computer works. Of course, it's not perfect, but at least it's giving a hint of the way things are. Now, what does it create? The difference you have between classical and quantum computer is about easy and hard problems. So for understanding that, you need to understand what is an easy problem and what is a hard problem. An easy problem is a problem where the number of steps you need to go in order to solve it is polynomial with respect to the size of the input. You see here I have an input which can be 10 to 15 to 25 bits. And when I increase the size of the input, the number of steps I need to do in order to solve the problem increases polynomially, and this is supposed to be relatively easy to do. That's called an easy problem. On the other side, if you have a hard problem, the number of steps you need in order to solve the problem increases exponentially with respect to the number of bits. And now you see that as soon as you reach a large number of, or a reasonable number of bits, the number of steps you need is going so high that you will not be able to solve the problem. So even a hard problem you can always solve if you have a few bits, but very quickly you will not be able to solve it anymore. The difference between hard and easy problem is really very important for quantum computer and also for cryptography. This is why you really need to understand this step in order to understand the quantum threat, which we are going now to discuss. So, why is a quantum computer a threat for our cybersecurity? This has to do with public key cryptography. Here I only give a simple example. This is a slightly oversimplified, but at least again you understand what it is about. When Alice wants to communicate with Bob securely, the idea here is that Alice will like Bob to send secret messages. Alice makes a private key, okay, and then she will encapsulate this private key into a so-called public key, and the calculation to go from private key to public key is easy. So you see here I have my private key, but it is within a kind of protection, okay? And if you want to break this protection, this is a hard problem. This will be very difficult, okay? However, to go from the private key to the public key is easy. Now, this public key, because it is now protected, can be sent to Bob over a non-protected channel. Bob will get this encapsulated key and can use this key to encrypt data. So he has some text, he will encrypt the text and provide this encrypted text. This text now can also go through an unprotected channel towards Alice, and Alice can decrypt it with the private key. So you see, the private key can decrypt, the public key can encrypt. It's very easy to go from private to public, but hard to go the other way. And that's really the basics of public key crypto for data exchange. Now, how do you do that with a classical computer? When you have a classical computer and when you encapsulate the key, it's an easy problem. So here, you see it's the same graph I gave you with this exponential, but now I use what is called a log scale. So every time you go up here, it's a factor of 10. Every time you go up one step here in this graph, the number of operations you need now is increasing by a factor of 10. So if now I have, again, an example, 30 bits, the key encapsulation, the generation of the protection for the key, is you need something like 100 operations. If you want to break the system, if you want to decrypt the key once it is encapsulated, you see here that you need 10 to the power 6 operation. So you see there is a large difference between creating the key and breaking the key. However, this may not be enough. So if you increase the number of bits, you see now this difference is increasingly large. And again, it is a logarithmic scale. So here you have now 10 to the power 12. So it's very, even if here you could decrypt, here it will be not possible. Or if it's here possible, you go one step further and it will become impossible again. Which means that because of this asymmetry between the encapsulation and breaking, increases the key size is enough to counter increasing computing power. It doesn't matter how much computing power you have. With public key crypto, with a classical computer, you can always find the right key size, which will be impossible to break. When you go to a quantum computer, it's very different. Remember, a quantum computer can transform this hard problem, which we have here, into an easy problem. An easy problem is now the way the number of operations increases with the input size is now the same as with the key encapsulation. So you see that here there was some difference, but when you increase the key size, the difference remains very close to before. Therefore, if you could solve here, you can also solve here. With a quantum computer, you break this asymmetry between the encryption and breaking, and therefore you have no more security with public key crypto. Because public key crypto is really at the basis of cybersecurity, once you have a quantum computer, you don't have cybersecurity anymore. I show it as an example on, again, an analogy. If today you have cybersecurity is this castle, of course a hacker can try to go inside your castle and find a way to get inside, but you can always plug the holes and make your castle hard enough. However, once you have a quantum computer, there is nowhere to hide. So with a quantum computer, you break the structure of cybersecurity completely. The next question is, when will the quantum computer arrive? And here, the bad news is that the quantum computer is already, the threat, let's say, is already here. And the idea is about what is known as harvest now, decrypt later threat. If Alice wants to send something secret to Bob, Eve can eavesdrop on the transaction and get the encoded message if you want. Today she cannot do much with it because she doesn't have a quantum computer, but she keeps the data, and when she has a quantum computer, she can decrypt the data at her leisure. Which means that any data you send today will be decrypted by the quantum computer if you are using a standard public key crypto system. So even though today we don't have a quantum computer, the threat is already here. And actually, if you look at what's the position of NIST with respect to that, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph here, but the idea is because of this harvest now, decrypt later threat, starting the transition is critical already now. And NIST has already decided that all the quantum vulnerable public key crypto system, which are in this table, should be stopped by 2030, 2035 maximum. Deprecated means that you should not really use them, but it's still possible. Disallowed is just you shouldn't use them anymore at all. So we have here, let's say, a hard deadline. By 2035, we should really stop using standard public key crypto. So when will we really have a quantum computer? At the CSA, some years ago, we decided to put a clock, which is a countdown to what we called 2YQ. Today, I looked at the clock, we still have 5 years. Okay? So we believe that within something like 5 years, so by 2030, there is a good chance that we will have a quantum computer which is called cryptographically relevant, which means that it will be able to break existing public key crypto systems. Here I give you some examples of different kinds of computer. You got IBM, you got atom computing, you got another one which is based on a different structure which is called D-Wave. All of these people are working hard to get a full cryptographically relevant quantum computer, just a strong quantum computer. And you see IBM, for example, has even a roadmap starting from actually many years ago, but the roadmap I put is about these years, 2024 to 2030 plus. And you see that by 2030, they should have already a working quantum computer. So all that comes to the same kind of idea that we have 5 more years before we have a quantum computer. However, the quantum threat is already here because whatever data we send over unsecured network is already at threat by the quantum computer. I just wanted to add that it's not only in the US or in Europe that we have people working on quantum computer. In China, for example, they have also made a lot of progress on quantum computers, and it's also, the quantum threat is also there from China as well. So how can we protect the cloud? In order to address the quantum threat, we need to go to what is known as quantum safe solutions. There are 2 kinds of solutions which are totally different. One is the classical solutions, and the other is to use quantum against quantum. I call it quantum versus quantum. And we'll go through both of them along. Classical solutions means replacing the algorithm we are currently using for public key crypto by algorithm which should be strong against a quantum computer. So you replace your classical algorithm by other algorithms, but these algorithms are not susceptible to the quantum computer. The hard thing is to choose the right problem which the quantum computer cannot access. And this is exactly what's going on at NIST today, and I will give you an example in a few minutes. The other solution is rather different, is to use the properties of quantum system to protect against the quantum computer. Here we have a few possible uses. One is a quantum random number generator, which we're not going to discuss at length, but it's really generating randomness in a better way using quantum, which will enhance the security of your systems. The second one is called quantum key distribution, or QKD. Both of these solutions are already available today. In the future, we hope to build quantum network and ultimately the quantum internet. And the quantum internet should really provide you with the ultimate security. Basically, the quantum internet will completely solve the issues of the quantum computers. But let's go back first to this quantum resistant algorithm or post-quantum cryptography, because I think that's what is moving quickly and we really need to understand what's going on. Last year, NIST already published this new algorithm which will replace existing one and should be resistant against the quantum algorithm. They have chosen algorithms which are used for key exchange and for signature. And they have already published the new standards which are to be followed when you want to use these algorithms. So these ones are already here and can be used in order to protect your data. There is a fourth algorithm which will be used for signature, and the draft is now has been done, and they are going to release it probably later this year. However, because of the uncertainty linked to this algorithm, they are relatively new and the security is probably not entirely known. The NIST has decided to add an extra round of choice of algorithm, and they have now just a few weeks ago decided on an extra algorithm which is called HQC, based on a completely different mathematical problem, which is co-spaced here, and this one will also be standardized. So you see you now have 3 different algorithms which will be used for signature and 2 which can be used for key exchange. However, they state clearly that the new algorithm is not supposed to be used as a replacement today, but just in case the first one fails for some reason or is damaged by the quantum computer. And actually, if you look carefully, you see that this happened already. One of the algorithms which was selected as in round 4 was actually destroyed completely and has been withdrawn. So you see, you select a new problem, you try and make a good algorithm to offer security, and it doesn't work always. So this one has been already broken. In order to have other choices, more choices for signature, NIST has even started a new round of choices for new signature systems based on different kinds of algorithms. Having the right algorithm to resist a quantum computer is not the end of the road, but it's really the beginning. And here again, I give a quote from NIST, which states that it can take 10 to 15 years to go from an algorithm to a quantum safe infrastructure. Okay, so basically it's written, this timeline reflects the complexity of companies building the algorithm into products and services. This can take a long time. Therefore, when you want to use this algorithm, you need to assume that they will be secure for the time it will take to integrate them, 10 to 20 years. This is not so sure, and that's why you need crypto agility. And that's already taken care by the NIST, because they say, if this algorithm fails, we got another one. And therefore, we should be able, whatever we build from this algorithm, we need to be able to change the algorithm, and that's really crypto agility. However, in addition to that, having another layer of security may be wise, and that's what we call hybrid system. We believe that it is good to add another layer which can be based on quantum in order to add the security to your system. In case something breaks, you have another completely different way of assuring security. One of the solutions is called quantum key distribution. Quantum key distribution, if you remember my previous slide, it's a little bit similar to what we saw before. Alice wants to communicate with Bob, but now she has a secret key she will use for encryption and decryption. Same key will be used. The only problem is, how do you bring this key from Alice to Bob in a secure way? And the way to do it is to use a quantum channel. So you will use quantum to send the key. So the key will be written in qubits. You will send qubits from Alice to Bob. And the properties of this qubit is that it cannot be eavesdropped. Or more precisely, if somebody tries to eavesdrop on the quantum channel, it will change the qubits and it will be known by Alice and Bob. So QKD can be used as an extra layer of security which is not based on computation but can offer a different layer of security. The big difference between QKD and post-quantum crypto is the time dependence. Today, when you choose an algorithm, you choose the parameters, and if you remember, you choose, for example, the input size. And of course, once you have chosen the input size, you have chosen the asymmetry between encrypting and decrypting. If you have more computing power, this might not be enough. Therefore, maybe in a few years, you will have to increase this key size, for example. But once every information you have transferred with the given key size will then be attacked. Therefore, the security of your transaction will decrease with time. Here it's the decrease you had, for example, with the classical systems. And we know that within 10 years there should be a quantum computer and this will be totally broken. With a new post-quantum system, we are not sure what will happen. We hope that they will stay secure for much longer, but there is also a slope which makes it go down. In contrast, a quantum key distribution system is not based on computational assumptions and therefore will stay the same today and tomorrow. The security of the key exchange is exactly the same at all times. Therefore, QKD adds another layer of security which is very different and doesn't have the same going down with timing. Today, QKD is used for point-to-point system. If you look back at my slide here, this is one point to another. On the quantum channel, it is limited in length, for example, about 100 kilometers. But you can build from this 100-kilometer links very long networks. And that has already been done, for example, in China, And you see here a representation of a huge quantum key distribution network which was built in China with a backbone covering the main cities in China and many points of presence, many distributing points all in the big cities. So you see, today QKD can already be used in order to enhance the security of your systems in addition to the post-quantum. We don't recommend using only QKD. Sometimes it is much more costly, and we really believe that the addition of QKD and PQC will be the best defense against the quantum threat. The transition to quantum threat is not so easy as people thought initially, and I just wanted to show you that the plan was you start your quantum transition from today to the quantum safe system, but in fact the reality is that it's a little bit more complex than we hoped. So what are the action points which we recommend in order to counter the quantum threat? I put it here as both summary and action points. The first one, summary: quantum computers now exist. There are quantum computers. They are not powerful enough to break fully our cybersecurity, but this will come. And therefore, the first action point is you should start your quantum safe journey now. Second thing is you should try and improve your key generation. On this you can use quantum random number generators. I haven't talked about that a lot, but this is also another step which you can take. You should already think about quantum safe. You cannot have new development in crypto without looking at that to see how your system will be quantum safe in the future. You need to know your crypto, and you need to discover what is vulnerable today and think of ways to make it quantum safe. It's very important to have crypto agility because you are not sure of what kind of system will remain safe against a quantum computer. And finally, we call it defense in depth. You need really to have different layers of security by using hybrid system, probably PQC at the basis, QKD as an extra layer in order to enhance your security. By using all that, I hope that we can get back to quantum safe system very quickly. This is all I had to say today. As a conclusion, you are most welcome to join our quantum safe security working group at the CSA. You can look on the CSA webpage and find how to get to us. And I thank you for your attention.